Bringing the people behind our food to life.
When we're at the farmer's market, we just scramble to get everything up and done. Cal and I, we always had a big vegetable garden. Is that right? Yeah. We sort of started thinking about it and said, well, let's say we go from 400 square feet to 4 million square feet. Can't be that big a problem. It's all the same. I mean, it's just more rows. And we sort of as I mentioned to Rebecca, we kind of backed into it. We bought the farm and then went, okay, what are we going to do? This has too many rows. I think this has got 12 rows. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 10 rows. That's a 10-row variant. So we would not save that for seed. With us, we rely on our instincts. We would save this, but it's starting to get a kind of a shoe peg look to it, and starting to develop a larger butt at the end here. I don't want to keep that characteristic. I was going through the catalog and trying to see what else was interesting. And this line, it said, makes good cornbread. That's all. Just makes good cornbread. Three little words. And I went, holy smokes. It got me thinking. I hadn't had good cornbread for a long time. And the corn has been, it's been stale. We buy a thing of corn, and it's not whole grain. It's not particularly fresh. And I went, really good corn. And I need that. And we planted it, we ground it, and it made good cornbread. And it made good polenta, it made good cookies, it made good pound cake. It makes good pancakes. And so, it exceeded all our expectations. Any tasks that you can do in the summer, collecting greens, for instance, takes 3 to 4 times longer in the winter. Because you just simply putting on boots, putting on a raincoat, going out there, putting on gloves. Where once you work with gloves, you're slower than if you're working with bare hands. And in the mud, you're slipping around. Your hamstrings start to ache, bending over and doing the work. So there it is. That's the burdock root. So it takes longer, and the soil doesn't fall off the roots as quickly and easily as it does when it's dry in the summer. So it's a lot more work. And then the other problem is your daylight. You can't really start digging stuff until about 9 o'clock in the morning. Kind of stretching it. That's kind of the equivalent to 6 o'clock in the morning in the summer. You drag yourself out there, and then about 3:30, 4 o'clock, it's too dark to do work. And so you have to plan your day and compress it and then extend it over 3 days. So that's a big challenge. And I think that's the biggest. Currently, we have some squash and some sweet potatoes taking up residence here. It's interesting. What you're doing is, to a certain extent, you're growing stuff in the winter, but we capture the summer sun and then let it go through this maturation process. Sweet potatoes, when they come out of the ground, you dig them, are inedible. They're just boring, and they have no sweetness, no depth, no nuttiness, and they have to go through a curing process. In the first step of the curing process, to keep them in a room, we would jack up the temperature to 80 degrees, 85 degrees. They have to be kept at 85 degrees for 10 days, where they go through a whole biochemical process, a whole change, a physiological change. And they become storage roots at that point because they live in the dry tropics. And when it gets real dry, they go through this shift, and the very hot, dry weather comes, and then they go quiescent, dormant. Then after that, they have to be kept for about 8 weeks. At 70 degrees, and then they develop their flavor, and so that's it. That's what's called the curing process. Then after that, you can eat them, and they get better and better through the winter.
And the market is open.
Already, we've sort of reinvented the farm a couple of times. When we first started, it was pure production. Then we added some retail stuff. We've had a good, really nice working relationship with Jeff Fairchild at New Seasons for now 9 years. So then we started to pick up the restaurants. And then Leslie Pohl Cosbo, who we knew from community gardens in Portland, said, Anthony, I'm working with a bunch of people from Hillsdale, and we're setting up a farmer's market. This is in 2002. Are you interested in doing it? I had no interest up to that point. Neither Carol nor I had any interest in a farmer's market. We just saw it as a lot of work.
Oh, yeah, they're both attended. Okay.
And but it grabbed us, kind of like the corn that makes good cornbread. We looked at it and we said, Leslie, we'll give it a shot.
I forgot squash, Anthony.
Yeah. Early on, it was probably harder to introduce people to new greens and stuff. Now they'll give me the benefit of the doubt. If I say it's good, I shrug my shoulders and I say, hey, am I going to eat bad food? Look at me. I'm a big strapping person. I got to have good food. Why would I spend a lot of time digging up and pulling something in if it didn't taste good? Now, you may not like it, and that's a personal thing, but it's not going to be because the quality is bad and I'm trying to foist something on you that I don't want to eat myself. One of the things that I think is very important when people talk about local food systems, the idea is that it's kind of a social contract with us. It comes from our field. We eat it with everybody else. So it's probably the same night that somebody takes my cornmeal home and cooks it up, we're also eating it at home. And that's sort of the essence of food safety, of food security. It's not having some sort of remote mill out in the middle of nowhere that you've never heard of, taking corn that may be coming from Argentina, Mexico, and the United States, maybe some other corn producing region, all blended together, and you never know where it came from. This, everybody knows it came from out there, and even now you can see the husks sitting out there where it came from.